It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm so happy you could tune in. I trust you all had a wonderful 4th of July holiday weekend. Created lots of good memories, ate lots of hamburgers, hot dogs, watch all the fireworks. Fireworks are so much fun. You know what? They never get old. It's really lots of fun. Today's show is going to be fun and raw. My guest, Nadine Bubeck, television personality, blogger, author, mommy, to name a few, is going to be with us in just a bit to talk all about her bumpy road into mommyhood, along with her wonderful book called Expecting Perfect. Is there such a thing? I don't know. My pregnancies weren't perfect, so I can't wait to talk to Nadine. But first, the weather. Oh, my goodness. I hope everything has calmed down for everybody in the East. I mean, watching the weather every night, I'm never going to complain about our heat. Yes, it was 106 yesterday. But, you know, seeing the devastation, I just am sending my prayers and good thoughts out to everybody. You've had such terrible tornadoes, and I hope it all goes away and the sunshine comes. But I did want to tell you a little bit about what we have in Arizona this time of year. Besides hot and humid with a capital H, we're in what they call the monsoon season, where the humidity gets higher, and that means that we get these big dust storms called haboobs. And we usually get them in the late afternoon. And it's almost like if you're driving, if you ever have been in a whiteout in the snow, it's almost like a whiteout, only it's dust and you can't see, and it's dangerous. And, you know, they tell you that if you're on the highway and one of these haboobs comes, you'll be amazed. Look up what it looks like. It's really scary. It's gigantic and it's full of dust and you can't see. And they tell you to pull over on the side of the road. Do not have your lights on. And, you know, don't try to drive in it. So here's a little bit of history about the haboob. The origin is 1895 to 1900, and haboob is taken from the Arabic word called hab, meaning wind. That's the other thing. We get like 50-mile-an-hour winds, or, you know, even stronger than that. And it says that a strong wind that occurs along the southern edges of the Sahara and the Sudan is associated with large sandstorms and dust storms and may be accompanied by thunderstorms. It usually lasts about 3 hours, is most common during the summer, and can blow from any direction. A haboob may transport huge quantities of sand or dust, which move as dense wall that can reach the height of 900 meters, which is about 3,000 feet. But, you know, here in Arizona, we get very little rain, and the haboob doesn't last 3 hours that I've seen. It probably feels like it if you're on the road, but it comes, it goes, and, you know, we're so dry here in Arizona, we really need the rain, but usually we get it maybe, if we're lucky. Last night it rained maybe 20 minutes, lots of thunder, lots of lightning. You do not want to be outside during this. Anyway, that's our weather pattern for the next few months, along with the temperatures in the hundreds. So just hoping no more tornadoes, no more bad weather for everybody. And you know what? This is not a weather show, but I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to share some history about what we get here. And I've lived here about 21 years, going on 22, and we never had haboobs when we first moved here. It was always just dust storms, which I had never seen because I'm from the East. But now we call them haboobs. So everybody stay safe. And if you do have rain outside and there's no thunder and there's no lightning, sometimes it's fun to take your little ones out there and play in the rain. You know what? It's only water. It will dry. So going on to recalls, there weren't any recalls that had to do with baby, toddler, children equipment this month. However, if you visit my websites, mybestparentingadvice.com, along with babyinstructions.com, I keep the recalls up to date. There's a recall page on both of my sites. So take a look, and if you do have anything that's been recalled, don't use it, and don't try to finagle it and make it work. Call one of those numbers, go online, because we have to keep our children safe. That's the number one priority. So don't, if somebody hands you down something, also make sure that's on the recall list as well. So this week, no recalls. What else? Back to work, planning ahead. What are you thinking ahead about putting your new little bundle in a preschool? I'll tell you what, that can be really frightening. I mean, it's scary to have anybody watch your baby except you, but some of us do have to go back to work, and we don't get to stay home with the baby. So, as always, I share some tips from my books, and this week I'm going to share a few tips from Help! My Baby Came Without Instructions, from the chapter called Yikes, Is It Time to Go Back to Work Already? Choosing the Perfect Preschool. Well, in this book, and Help! My Baby Came Without Instructions, and Help! My Toddler Came Without Instructions, I have chapters in both books with the preschool checklist, everything from meeting the director, looking at the school, walking in, what does it smell like, what happens. And I'm not going to read you the checklist, but if you can get my books on Amazon from my website. You know what? They're great gifts. But this chapter is so important, especially if you're first-time mommy and you don't exactly know what to look for. So my deal breakers are, did you get the cold shoulder or feel that the staff was too busy and you were unimportant to them? Did the facility look, smell, or feel dirty? Were the caregivers dressed inappropriately? Did the staff seem unhappy and appear not to be having fun with these little ones? I mean, after your child was enrolled, were you told you couldn't visit anytime you wanted? Any of those are deal breakers. You know what? And even if you just walk into the school or you just have an intuition, go with your intuition. Especially women, we have great intuition. If something doesn't feel right, pick another preschool. You want to be able to go to work in the morning and know that your child is getting just as good a care as you would give them. So there are some real deal breakers. And I thought I'd bring that up because if you're pregnant, you know what, start looking now. Some schools have waiting lists, and you want to be on that list. So start looking. And again, you can always email me too if you have any questions, because I've set up infant and toddler rooms in lots of preschools. So email me. I can help, and the books can help. Also, have you ever wondered where the pacifier, or binky as we now call it, came from? Here's the scoop from Innovations in the New York Times. I thought this was pretty interesting. It says, by the time Christian Meineke applied for a patent for a new and original design for baby comforter in 1901, people had been giving babies soothing objects to suck on for centuries. They used to give babies knotted rags dipped in water or honey, wooden beads, gum sticks made of stone, bone or coral, but nothing was as popular as the pacifier. And years ago, his baby comforter consisted of an India rubber nipple attached to a disc-shaped shield that kept the nipple from being swallowed by the sucking. Other inventors patented other variations, including one with a ring, so you could yank it out, but they all retain that basic nipple and shield configuration. But back then, in the 1900s, the nipples were processed with sulfur, which left them foul-smelling, and they were also tinted white, a process that tainted them with lead, and the shields were made of bone, ivory, or aluminum. Not too safe, but now what we have today is something in the 1940s, a company called the Binky Baby Products of New York, which is now owned by Playtex, came up with so many different kinds of pacifiers. So actually, it says that more than 75% of Western babies use a pacifier. And as one medical historian noted, the experience of the ignorant has rooted the wisdom of the learned. So you know what? As we go through the years, we learn and we make things better. But I thought that was pretty cool that in 1901, that's when the pacifier first came about. And I wouldn't suggest doing what these people did years ago with the coral and the bone and the beads. Again, be careful what goes in that baby's mouth. And what else? Before the break, I had something else to share with you. There was another interesting story called The Trauma of Parenthood. And we know, sometimes it can be pretty traumatic. It's all different. This was in the gray matter section of the New York Times, and it says, everyone knows that being a parent of the infant is hard. The adoration you feel for your child makes all the sacrifices worthwhile, even though it's the toughest job you'll ever love. But what was so interesting to me in this article was millions of new mothers and fathers show signs of clinical depression. They've done all kinds of studies linking it. It's not just hormonal. We always said it was hormonal. And even dads, it says among new parents, 3 to 6 months postpartum, 42% of mothers and 26% of fathers exhibit signs of clinical depression. Everything changes. It's all different. And then you have this baby that you absolutely adore and love more than anything. And you have to take care of it 24/7. And it's interesting because reading this article, it didn't occur to me. I know dads get scared. And, okay, guys, sometimes you don't share everything. But, dads get scared, too, because now they're the breadwinner for one more person. And things are different, and they want to help mom, and they have to go to work. So, I never thought that this amount of men would be depressed. We always think of women and their hormones. So anyway, all I can say is enjoy your bundle. If you're depressed, if you feel like it's really worse than just being overtired, please, please, please contact your doctor, check with them, and you know what? Also ask for help. If somebody offers to help you with your new little baby, it's okay. Say thank you. If you don't have a grandma here or grandpa and you have a friend and they come over, take a nap, let them hold the baby. We all love babies. And don't ever, ever be ashamed. It's tough being a new parent. So don't ever be ashamed to ask for that help because you really sometimes need it. And you need that good sleep. One more tip before the commercial. When your baby naps, take a nap. The dishes will still be there. The laundry will still be there. And it doesn't matter. If you get a full couple hours of sleep, it will make the world look like a better place. So when we come back, I'm going to introduce you to my guest, Nadine Bubeck.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches Lessons in Joyful Living. She believes in empowering others and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for Lessons in Joyful Living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi. Homeschooling? Have questions? Get your pen and paper ready. It's the sociable homeschooler, Vivian McNinney. Fridays at 5, 4 Central on TogiNet.com. After a handsome blue-eyed Texan fell in love with Vivian at the Victoria Station in London, she found herself at DFW Airport with a tiny suitcase and a snazzy little duffel bag. Well, 25 years later, she is now happily married to that blue-eyed cowboy. They have 4 grown children ages 24 to 18 who became willing guinea pigs when she unwittingly stumbled upon the world of homeschooling. Wildflower Academy flourished for 15 years. They survived and thrived, and you can too. Vivian will be covering a wide range of issues that face homeschoolers. What do you do with kids in the summer? How to set up your one-room schoolhouse? How obedience is paramount? And what to do with those snakes? Plus, you'll be sharing ideas and insights that she gleaned from other homeschoolers. So join us for an engaging hour with the sociable homeschooler, Vivian McNinney. Friday afternoons at 5, 4 Central on TogiNet.com. Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. The hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I am so excited about my guest this morning. Her name is Nadine Bubeck, and let me tell you a little bit about her. Her writing has always been her passion, and throughout her pregnancy, it became her therapy. She hopes that her book, Expecting Perfect, My Bumpy Journey to Mommyhood, will act as an entertaining yet helpful aid to women like herself, eager and excited to assume the greatest, most rewarding title in the world, Mom. And boy, is that true. In addition to being a mommy, Nadine is a wife, TV personality, host, blogger, and now author. She's been an anchor, reporter, and producer in various states and cities, and she runs a lifestyle website and is a style contributor for one of Arizona's leading magazines. She was awarded a handful of Best of titles, including Most Fashionable News Anchor and Best Traffic Anchor in Phoenix. And she also tied for last place on 4 weddings, which she said she should have won, and I bet she should have. Nadine grew up in Silicon Valley, so California and the ocean will always have a piece in her heart, and I have to agree. I miss that ocean here. Anyway, she calls sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, home sweet home with her boys, her hubby, and her son. And Nadine also wants to thank him for being overly protective, because I have to say, this book is terrific. And the only word I can think of, Nadine, and this is such a positive, is it's raw and it's human and it tells the truth. I mean, so many times people, sort of don't tell you exactly the truth. So anyway, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you can be here today.
Blythe, thank you so much for having me. I get nervous every time someone reads my book because it is so brutally honest. I just hope it's well received. So I'm thrilled you enjoyed it, and it was my goal to keep it raw, uncut, and candid because that's the reality. And I'm sorry in advance if you hear my baby in the background because I'm doing 50 things at once with him.
Hey, you know what? It's baby and toddler instructions. As long as we can hear you, we're okay. Anyway, first of all, the book, let's talk about what it's about, because pregnancy is a word that brings lots of things in. What's the book about? Tell my listeners.
Absolutely. So, writing has always been my passion and my therapy. And when my husband and I started trying to get pregnant, I thought the whole experience was funny because we did the whole legs in the air thing, hoping for success. But at the same time, it was also very stressful. We put pressure on, one another as couples do, trying to get pregnant and getting pregnant right away. And obviously having that fear inside, what if it doesn't happen? So I decided to document our experience, and luckily and thankfully, we did get pregnant pretty easy. And then I became a totally crazy OCD pregnant lady wanting to do everything right. There are so many rules now when you're pregnant, eat certain foods, don't eat certain foods, sleep a certain way, do things, don't do things. And I continued to write throughout the beginning of my pregnancy because it became a total whirlwind. I didn't want to jeopardize anything. I wanted to make sure everything was okay. And as a type A personality myself, I wanted to do everything right. So by the time we reached 20 weeks, I had continued this journal or diary throughout my pregnancy, and we went in for our, big doctor's appointment that you go into when you're halfway through with your pregnancy. And my doctor looked me in the eye and she said, Nadine, you have complete placenta previa. That means your baby's life is at risk, your life is at risk, you will likely bleed, be hospitalized, put on bed rest, and birth a preemie, all of which happened. And so Blythe, then writing really became my therapy. And I documented my entire pregnancy through my son's 7-night stay in the NICU. He was born 6 weeks early after my hospitalized bed rest because everything my doctor said happened. And I had this diary at the end of my pregnancy, and I thought, you know what? I want to publish it. I want to put it out there for anyone, even if it's one person or 50 people or 500 people, to read this and know that there is someone that you can relate to, someone that shares your same feelings and emotions. And I also want to put the reality out there that, you know, all of us expect this picturesque pregnancy. I mean, we see beautiful bellies on Facebook and in the movies. And while pregnancy is a beautiful experience, while pregnancy is a beautiful experience, it's oftentimes not what you expect. Hence my title, Expecting Perfect, My Bumpy Journey to Mommyhood. And I published it, and now it is out for any woman who wants to read it.
Well, let's go back to something, first of all. And I do have to say, I understand, because with my second pregnancy, I was in bed for 8 months. They probably wouldn't do that now. I mean, you know, things have changed. That was 31 years ago. Things have changed. But I can remember, I didn't journal, but I did all kinds of things like make those stretch pictures with fabric. And, you know, it's hard because you can only watch so much TV. I knitted blankets.
Oh, my gosh. TV becomes so monotonous. It almost drives you crazy.
It does. But, you know, you do it and you're worried and you're scared. But let's go back to the beginning a minute, because you talked about your legs in the air. And I really want you to talk about that a little bit, if you're willing to, on air.
Absolutely. Because, I'm an open book, literally.
There's so many things that even when I was trying to get pregnant, you know, you drink juice, or there are all kinds of things if you want a boy, if you want a girl. But you, you know, you refer to this a couple times in the beginning of the book. And tell my listeners what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So, okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to say this. So when you want to get pregnant, if you are someone like myself who is a natural journalist, you research how to get pregnant. And a lot of people put their legs in the air after doing the deed for like 20 minutes, hoping that the sperm swims very swiftly and makes for a more successful little embryo. And it is a taboo subject that people don't really talk about. It's really what couples talk about behind closed doors. But the truth is, like, everybody does it. Everybody does these legs in the air and certain positions and certain things, because we're all in this together, and secretly we don't even know we're all doing this. So I do discuss what my husband and I did to hopefully get pregnant. We put our legs in the air. We also read that you're supposed to drink soda before, you know, getting it on. We also, let's see, what else do we do? You know, certain positions. And, you know, who's to say it works or doesn't? But I do feel it makes the experience, you know, more fun, because getting pregnant can be very stressful, especially if you try month after month after month. And you have to do things to keep it fun, to keep it exciting, and to keep it comical, because, you know, there's nothing funnier than putting on music with your legs in the air after having sex, hoping to get pregnant. And I think that a lot of couples need to embrace, you know, having fun with it, especially if pregnancy is a challenge, because that's what it's really about. It's about, you know, making something with you and your partner. And I really wanted to enjoy that experience, and we did.
Well, I have to say, for those of you listening, this is not an X-rated book. This is not a dirty book. This is a down-to-earth, what happens, you know, not how to have the baby. Obviously, we all know how we get a baby. But it does talk about the Olympic swim event after the deed. And it does talk about, you know, it's so cute how Nadine talks about how her husband drank Coke, you know, before. And who knows? And she's right. Who knows what works? We don't know. And, you know, it is stressful because it makes things different. When you know you're trying to have a baby, it's not the same thing. I don't care. There is pressure, especially first time. Yep. You don't know if you're going to get pregnant in a month. You don't know if you're going to get pregnant in a year. You don't know anything. And, you know, let's face it, for all women and men, it's new, it's different. And that waiting to see if that little stick says pregnant or turns blue or whatever, you know, whatever one you use, it can be stressful. So this was reading this journal, it's really refreshing. And if you're thinking about getting pregnant, we're going to talk a little bit about placenta previa after the commercial, but, you don't know what's going to happen. Women have been having babies for centuries, but I think it's important to discuss sometimes things happen that are different that you don't know about. And it's always great to be educated about some things that you never thought about. Dr. Heathcott's wonderful.
Yes, she wrote the foreword to my book.
Yes. And, she talks about the placenta previa a little bit in the front of the book. But I have to say, I know her. She's great. And what a terrific person to be pregnant and have as your doctor. But I do want to say something about this, too, because you don't all live in Arizona and you can't all use Dr. Heathcott. Make sure when you do get pregnant and you choose your doctor, make sure you can talk to her and make sure that their office is one that the communication is easy, because when you're pregnant, you do have so many questions. Like Nadine said, what do you eat? What do you drink? How are you supposed to sleep? Women ask all the time, can I still work out? Can I go to the trainer? So make sure you can talk to your doctor. And if you can't, don't ever be embarrassed. Get a new doctor. Don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. It's your body. It's your baby. You know what? You go through this experience and you want it to be positive, because there are lots and lots of questions.
And make sure you have a doctor that fits your personality, Blythe, because I needed someone who really told it to me straight, who was all about business, and that was Dr. Heathcott. But there was a moment in my pregnancy when I basically had to have a cesarean section immediately, that Dr. Heathcott also showed me that she was a mother too. And I knew that I needed someone like her to guide me, to comfort me, to console me, to educate me, and make sure your doctor fits your personality. And don't be afraid to find another one if she doesn't.
Exactly. You know what? That's great advice, because we're all different, and you want to be able to call, and you don't want to feel stupid when you call with a question, because there's no stupid question. We don't know. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Nadine a little more about her pregnancy, about the book, about what placenta previa is, and I'm so excited to be able to hear your son in the background. He's so cute.
He's pretty vocal now.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you.
If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches Lessons in Joyful Living. She believes in empowering others, and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for Lessons in Joyful Living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi. I am not the woman I used to be. I'm free with Minister Diane Jones. Monday nights at 10, 9 Central on TogiNet. This is your chance, ladies, to hear stories of hope and healing from someone who's been there. Someone who has fought back from the horrors of incest. Minister Diane's innocence was stolen from her in the land of alcoholism and mental illness, which led to her being emotionally, physically, and sexually abused by her parents. Yet in spite of this trauma, she has gone on to become a successful wife, mother, registered nurse, and minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm not the woman I used to be. I'm Free is a straight-up show to enlighten you and to lighten your load. Do not let the weight of this world or the things that have happened to you control your life. For more on the show and Diane and her book, The Story of Me, email her directly from her show page here on TogiNet. Then, join us for I'm Not the Woman I Used to Be. I'm Free with Minister Diane Jones. Monday nights at 10, 9 Central on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. I'm here with my wonderful guest, Nadine Bubeck, who's written Expecting Perfect, My Bumpy Journey to Mommyhood, and we're talking about getting pregnant, being pregnant. If you had read this book before you decided to have a baby, would you have had the baby, or would you have said, oh my goodness, this is scary? What do you think?
For me, like,
For you,
absolutely.
yeah, for you.
There's nothing I wanted more ever to become a mother. And I don't want anybody to think that this book talks you out of trying to have a baby, because it is the complete opposite. I want women to know that even a bumpy journey is a beautiful journey, and it's 100% worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was the most incredible experience in my life. The moment I held my 4-pound baby, my life changed forever, and everything was put in perspective. Life before him was only life leading up to him, and there is nothing greater than assuming the role of mother. So even my experience being pregnant, which was far from perfect, I looked for the positives, Blythe, because we have to do that in life and in pregnancy. And you just need to embrace your experience, go along with it, keep a positive attitude, find a therapy like I had writing, find something that helps you get through it, and then know the outcome is worth it.
You couldn't have said it any better. That's beautiful, because it's true. I mean, even, I have my 2 children. I had some issues when I got pregnant with my daughter, too, and it is all worth it. And
Yeah.
you know what, especially in this day and age, with all our technology, with all our knowledge, we have lots of medical things that people didn't have years and years ago. So they do know how to deal with things. But in saying that, let's talk a little bit about placenta previa that Dr. Heathcott told you when you went to your appointment, and how do they know you have that at the beginning?
Okay, so just so you know that at 20 weeks I went in for, you have a really in-depth ultrasound during the middle of your pregnancy, and so I went in for my ultrasound and, saw the baby was moving, 10 fingers, 10 toes, everything looked perfect, and so I didn't really think anything of it. And after the ultrasound, my husband and I met with Dr. Heathcott, my Scottsdale-based doctor, and she said, Nadine, you have complete placenta previa. Let me define what that is. That is when the placenta completely covers the woman's cervix. Basically, it's a low-lying placenta. And Blythe, what a lot of women don't know is that most women have a low-lying placenta throughout the first portion of their pregnancy. However, the majority of the time, this issue self-corrects. In my case, it did not self-correct, and it was completely covering my cervix. That means there was no way I could have a vaginal delivery. In addition, it put me at risk for bleeding, premature birth, which we had. My son was born 6 weeks early, and immediately I was put on bed rest, but also if I did bleed, I would go to the hospital and be on bed rest there, and that also happened as well. So it is a very concerning situation. The complete situation happens in about 1 in 200 women, but as I said, most women do have a low-lying placenta that they don't even know about. In fact, my high school girlfriend read my book because she's pregnant again, and she said, guess what, Nadine? I went to the doctor, and they said you have a low-lying placenta, and I knew all about it after reading your book. So, and I don't want people to think that this book is just for people with placenta previa, because that really is only a part of it. It's my pregnancy story that honestly anyone can relate to, because we all have a pregnancy story. We all have a hiccup here and there. We all have an experience that was, most likely a little far from perfect. So I want people to know that even if you don't have placenta previa, this is a very real book to know that you can relate to someone that is pregnant. I mean, that's the truth. It's a real pregnancy story, and I made it a point, Blythe, not to over-edit my book. My book is exactly how I wrote it in my diary because I believe in authenticity.
You know, and the thing I love about the book is that it's like we're talking. It's like you're talking to Nadine while you're reading the book. It's not, you know, and the pictures are so great in here. I mean, you're so pretty and the baby's so adorable and you've got such a cute husband too. I mean, what a what a beautiful family. And it's like you're talking to somebody about being pregnant. And, you know, sometimes it makes me wonder how, you know, years ago, women just went in the field and had the baby. And I think, wow, you know, it was so different. And, you know, there's always pros and cons. Is it better that we have all this technology or is it not? And you know what? It has to be because you wouldn't know about any of this.
That's very true. But throughout my pregnancy, you know, I Googled everything. I Googled every symptom, every possibility, every scenario. And yes, it drove me a little bit crazy, but at the same time, I needed the information. I wanted to become a pro on being pregnant, on placenta previa, on the NICU, on birthing a preemie, on everything.
So let me ask you a question. If, you know, if you get pregnant again, does that mean once you have placenta previa, it happens a second time? Do you know the statistics on it? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But.
No, don't worry. And as far as I know, and after talking to Dr. Heathcott, it's as good of a chance as me having gotten it the first time. So just because you get it once does not mean you will get it again. And I also want to emphasize, like, the placenta previa was random. It is nothing I did or did not do to get it. It was the way the egg implanted, and it was the way the cervix and the placenta made their way for my embryo. So it wasn't something that I did or didn't do to get it. These things just happen.
You know, and we don't know when it's going to happen, but as you can hear the baby in the background with Nadine, I mean, everybody's fine. So you had a C-section. Well, let's go back a little bit.
Let's back up. You know, as I said, with placenta previa, you do have a very good chance of bleeding. And actually, I just celebrated my bleeding anniversary. On July 3rd of last year, I had my first bleeding episode. I went to the hospital for 4 nights, and they said, you know what, we don't have to deliver. I mean, I was really only, 28 weeks, so the thought of delivering scared me tremendously. And they said, you know what, just hang tight, go home, be on bed rest, don't do anything, and if you bleed again, come back. So I went home, I was on bed rest, and, you know, I turned to my computer every day, and I journaled, and 4 weeks to the day, I bled again. And this time, you know, we knew. I said, Nate, I'm packing a bag to the hospital because I'm going and I'm not coming home. So I packed a bag. I went to the hospital, and Blythe, you know, and I write about this in my diary, my baby shower was the next day. And the hospital was so accommodating that in the last minute, they gave us the conference room, and I had my baby shower in the hospital sitting in a wheelchair. It was incredible. I mean, everybody dreams of a first pregnancy and a baby shower, and I was like, okay, change of plan. So anyway, I was in the hospital there for a week on hospitalized bed rest, you know, barely getting out of bed, because as I grew bigger and if I walked around, I had a bigger chance of bleeding again.
What makes the bleed happen?
I'm sorry?
What makes the bleed happen? Why do you start bleeding?
It's the pressure on the placenta that's covering the cervix. So it's blood that's coming from me. It's not from the baby. And that's something that Dr. Heathcott did stress. I'm like, oh my gosh, is my baby going to lose blood? Is this blood coming from my baby? And she said, no, but it's coming from your placenta. And I could hemorrhage and lose a lot of blood, you know, if situations got really, really bad. So after being in the hospital for a week, it was Sunday night. My husband had dinner in the hospital. He went home. Well, wait, please, I'm screaming. Okay, it usually only lasts a few seconds. And then that's his form of talking. And then, so he went home after having dinner with me in the hospital. 2 hours later, I got up to go to the bathroom, and my sweats were soaked. And that's when the chaos started. You know, my tears started pouring out, and, you know, just one thing happened after the other. You know, the nurses came in, the doctors came in, my husband came back, And, they started, I'll go in the other room, they started monitoring me and making sure the baby's heartbeat was still there and the baby was fine. It was just me and bleeding. And, they were monitoring for contractions. At this point, I was 34 weeks pregnant. And the next morning, Dr. Heathcott comes in and she says, we're delivering you an hour and a half. Get ready. And then all of a sudden, the anesthesiologist came in. I got an epidural. We were rolled to the surgery room. And 45 minutes later, my Nicholas Michael Bubeck was born, and I didn't hemorrhage. It wasn't a detrimental C-section. He came out breathing. He came out eating on his own, which is incredible for a 4-pound, 6-week early baby. And everything was great, thank God. And however, Nicholas did spend 7 nights in the NICU, so that is another huge part of my book. I never imagined I would ever be in the NICU. In fact, I write about this in my book. During our hospital tour, I refused to even look at the double doors of the NICU because I thought there is no way that would ever happen to me. And you have such a preconceived, scary notion about what the NICU is, and it's everything but Blythe. That NICU was the biggest blessing in disguise. The nurses were amazing, and Nicholas had some struggles over the first few days of his life, but they were rocks, and it was incredible, and they were just accommodating. And then 7 weeks later, I brought home a 4-pound little doll.
He's so cute. How were his lungs when he was born?
I'm sorry?
How were his lungs?
Well, very luckily, Blythe, the first time I bled and the first time I was hospitalized, the doctors gave me steroid shots, which they do when you are at risk for a premature baby. And what these steroid shots do, and by the way, they really hurt.
I saw that in the book, yeah.
Yeah, you can read about that in the book. The steroid shots help stimulate baby's lung growth. So I had a round of shots during my first time in the hospital, and I actually had a round of shots during my second time in the hospital, and they worked. Nicholas never needed help breathing. Wow. But, giving birth to a full-term baby, your baby comes out and your baby's eating ounce after ounce after ounce and is able to latch right away. Well, Nicholas, came out not even being able to eat an ounce, and it took him a very long time to latch, and I was determined to breastfeed, so it eventually worked out. But
you know what? We're going to finish. We have to take a break. I don't mean to interrupt you. When we come back, we're going to talk some more to Nadine about her pregnancy journal, her bumpy road into mommyhood.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Are you ready to start rocking that woo-hoo that only you do? Because Lisa Stedman is on a mission. She will dare you, challenge you, enlighten you, provoke, and empower you to bring out that inner woo-hoo. Lisa is an internationally acclaimed best-selling author. She is a breakup expert, a brand consultant, CEO of Woohoo Inc. and the Woohoo Radio Network. She will show you how to take your boo-hoo and turn it into woo-hoo. Get rebellious and get real. Get your dreams off the back burner. Get inspired and motivated to take action. Start rocking that woohoo that only you do in love, life, and business. She is going to be here for you every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
Are you fascinated by the stories behind the stories? The people behind their masks? The truth about people's failures and redemptions in both their business and personal lives? Then Off the Record Secrets Of with host Judy Schreiner is for you. It's people's secrets that make them interesting, but very few folks are willing to reveal them unless they trust that their information will be treated with accuracy, fairness, and respect. People have been entrusting their secrets to longtime business journalist Judy Schreiner for the last 25 years, and now she's bringing her expertise and impressive contact list to Rockstar Radio Network. Tune in and call in as host Judy Schreiner talks to guests off the record as they reveal new secrets each Tuesday at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, what a fun show today. I am here with my wonderful guest, Nadine Bubeck. She has written the book called Expecting Perfect, Her Bumpy Journey into Mommyhood. And I have to say, it is refreshingly raw, wonderful. It's like you're sitting down with Nadine and talking to her. So if you're thinking about getting pregnant, are pregnant, having another baby, everybody should read this, even grandmas, because you know what? It gives you a look into what happens during the pregnancy. And, we're all scared. So anyway, we're talking to Nadine, and before the break, we were talking about the NICU and about the fact that her baby's lungs were fine. Sometimes because of the steroid shots, which it's just so important that the nurses know what to do, because that's what they worry about a lot, are the lungs if a baby's a preemie. But anyway, you were talking about that he couldn't eat. He was little?
Yes. A lot of times, when you have a full-term baby, eating isn't an issue, whether they latch on your breast or you feed them through a bottle. Well, when you have such a small baby, 4 pounds, it's very tiring for them to eat. So a full-term baby that would, come out eating ounce after ounce after ounce, it was fulfilling when Nicholas would eat, a few milliliters. But luckily, he never had to be tube-fed. He only had issues with his dropping temperature, so he had to spend some time in the incubator, and that concerned doctors a little bit because he couldn't maintain his temperature. But as far as eating and breathing, he came out a total rock star, thank goodness. And, you were asking me about the NICU, Blythe, and the NICU is a whole nother world, and so many babies end up in the NICU. Numerous babies are born premature every year for whatever reason. And the nurses literally hold your hand every step of the way. They help you. They guide you. They become your teachers. They become your friends. And one of the things I learned in the NICU that, you should also do with your full-term baby is called kangaroo care. And this is basically just skin to skin with your child, holding your baby on your bare chest, and having that skin-to-skin time. Your baby hears your heartbeat, and magically and miraculously, it helps regulate their own heartbeat. And that was the first time I was really able to snuggle, Nicholas. And I just remember, even more than the moment I gave birth, that was the most emotional, intimate moment of this entire experience, because it was me, him, skin to skin, and I still get tears in my eyes because the nurse told me to do that. Like, I was just, when you're in the NICU, you feel alone. Everything you thought it would be isn't. You expect to bring your baby home the next day and everything's fine, and just sometimes it doesn't happen. And for me, having the opportunity to really bond with Nicholas that way was a beautiful gift, and it's something that doctors recommend parents do with all newborns. Even, dads can do it, and when you bring your babies home from the hospital.
It's, it makes me teary to think about it. When I went to school in Boston, they had the hospital was called Women's Lying In. The name has since changed, and I used to volunteer, and they let me in the NICU, which they really don't do too much now. Right. But I would hold the babies. I mean, I wouldn't do skin to skin because obviously I wasn't their mother. But I would, in the isolettes, you put your hands in, you stroke their heads, and the NICU was such a quiet, calming place. It wasn't, this NICU was not loud and noise and machines, and it's very quiet and serene. And, it's amazing how these babies recover so quickly. I mean, I'll never forget. I don't know what you saw, but we had a 2-pound baby in there, and it was amazing because the
Right.
baby went home and the baby was strong and the baby ate, and just watching the skin to skin
And
is.
some people's stories are more challenging. I mean, and I write about it. Like, I had other people that I met in the NICU that had been there for weeks and months, and for me, it was only 7 days, and it was an emotional but beautiful 7 days. And I like to say, just so people can really put these babies in perspective, you expect your 7.5-pound baby. Nicholas was born 4 pounds 11 ounces, which is smaller than a 5-pound weight, and that's small.
It is small. My son was under 5 pounds too, and it's small and it's scary.
It's small and it's very scary. I mean, it's skin and bones, but let me tell you, my child came out proportional and beautiful, and you fall in love with your baby right away regardless. And it is, the reason why I journaled is because it helped get me through the challenges and the hurdles of pregnancy. But there's a lot of really happy and wonderful entries that I write about. I mean, I loved being pregnant. I even loved being on bed rest because it was just me. It was just time for me to be with Nicholas. And I want people to know that this is not a downer book. This is a real book. This is a candid book. This is a raw book. But this really captures a bumpy but beautiful journey. And it's so important that people embrace any experience they're given. Anyone.
I'm so happy you said that because it is, I'm saying it's raw, and candid is a really good word, but it's a happy book. I couldn't put it down. I mean, of course, I'm in the field and I love reading anyway, but I could not put your book down because I wanted to see what your next entry was. And it's, you'll laugh, you'll even cry. And when you see these beautiful pictures in the middle of the book and the back of the book with little Nicholas in his vest like a big boy, I mean, it's, you know what? Having a baby is such a miracle. And to be able to read this, I think it's wonderful that you were so candid and you did share everything because, so many times we do have questions, but we don't want to ask because maybe we're crossing the line and maybe it's personal. Right.
And maybe it's taboo and scary to ask.
So it's a beautiful book.
Blythe, I'm so honored and appreciative that you took the time to read it, and you're saying these kind things because, and I just want to throw in there, I was really scared to publish it. I mean, this is a very personal, it's my diary, and, obviously I hope and I pray that it's well received because it's such an intimate look at my deepest thoughts and feelings and experiences. And luckily and thankfully, I have an extremely supportive husband who said go for it. And I'm thrilled that it touched you and that you enjoyed reading it. So thank you.
Well, so I do have to ask this because your husband is in the whole book, and you talk about him all the time in the book, and he sounds like a great, wonderful person. But after you wrote this, did you show him as you wrote the entries?
I did not. He knew I was journaling. I think he had no clue what I was really doing. He just always saw me at my computer. And at the end, I said, Nate, you are the only person that besides my publisher, I said, you are the only person that I want to read this before I publish it. And if you don't want me to publish it, that's fine, and I won't hold it against you, and it'll just be something that I have for myself. And he sat outside in our backyard, and he read the whole book in 2 days, and he said, go for it.
Wow, what a good husband.
Let me tell you, and once you read it, you'll be like, he so supportive. He just said, go for it, and so I did.
And it's great because, so many times the daddy-to-be is left out. I mean, you're the one carrying the baby, and, fortunately, at times it's all about us because we are carrying the baby. But, Dad has feelings, and Dad is just as scared as you are, except the baby's not inside.
A lot about that. And also a lot of the times when you have the baby, Blythe, it's like you get into baby mode, and it's kind of like, what husband? And it was really hard for me to establish a balance between being a wife and being a mother, and sometimes that takes time. The transition can be challenging, And it doesn't mean I don't love my husband, because I love him more than anything. But now all of a sudden I have this other little thing that I love more than anything. And finding that balance can be interesting.
You know, I have a chapter in both of my books about I'm so tired. I love you, but I'm so tired. And last week I had a wonderful guest on, Alan Baisberg, and he talked about how not to become roommates because it is such a challenge. But you know what? You two did it right, or doing it right. Nicholas is beautiful, and we're at the end of the show, so please tell my listeners how they can get your book, where they can find you.
Yes. Please get my book. You can find all the information on Expecting Perfect at expectingperfect.com. The book is also available on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, and, I'm available on social media and via email for any questions, comments, feedback. Nadine at NadineBubeck.com. I'm an open book, literally, so I appreciate anyone's support, and I hope your viewers, will check out the book and let me know how they like it.
Nadine, thank you so much. You enjoy that little Christopher as he grows up, and thanks for being on the show. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
Too. Bye.
Wow, you know what? The pregnancy journey is not always so easy, and, the end result, what a miracle. Nadine's book is terrific, and I think everybody should read it. My guest next week will be one of my favorite guests, although you're all my favorites, Dr. Linda Clever. She is the author of The Fatigue Prescription, and we're going to have an interesting show. We're going to be talking about giving up our bad habits, those people that drain us, and so much more. It's going to be another great show. And don't forget to listen to the other wonderful shows on TogiNet.com. We have so many terrific hosts on everything. I am going to be on Alan Baisberg's show tonight at 5 o'clock Mountain Time to talk about radio. And don't forget, check out mybestparentingadvice.com. Just put an article, a question from a mom about cradle cap. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Pinterest. I have babyinstructions.com. Check it out. You can always contact me to do some parent coaching over the phone. If you live in Arizona, I'll come to your house. The number is 480-510-1453. And I'd like to leave you today with these wonderful words of wisdom from Alan Klein's book, Always Look on the Bright Side, celebrating each day to the fullest. As Cardinal Gaspard Marmalade said, a mother is she who can take the place of all others, but whose place no one else can take. And from Jane Pauley, kids learn more from example than anything you say. I'm convinced they learn very early not to hear anything you say, but watch what you do. So watch what you do, because our children do watch us, but don't forget to have fun. You know what? They grow up so fast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a great rest of the week. See you next time. Bye-bye.